Remember that time? That time I caught you bent over at an angle over Elvis Presley's mixing desk.
Yes, I did. Yes.
You were crying.
Well, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the old hip swinging would have done it for me, but it has certainly done something for you, as I recall.
Well, yes. I mean, it was a dreadful night.
It must have been.
Elvis was, let's say, he left the building in a foul mood.
Well, yes, he did. He
wasn't happy.
He left your building in ruins.
He did. That man wasn't happy.
Gaping.
Yes.
Like a manhole.
It's a dark place.
Well, I wouldn't know about that. Although if you'd like to bend over my mixing desk, I'll always have a look. That's a joke. That's a joke. You're giving me the look again because I've made the joke about the thing Elvis Presley did to you. It was a long time ago. It was the 1970s. Things were different. You were young. Well, younger. Younger in Vegas.
Yes.
You've gone out there.
Yes.
With those budgerigars to sell.
Well, yes, I went on tour with the budgerigard circus.
Yes.
Elvis loved those little budgies.
He loved them fluttering around.
He did. Well, he liked to take them. He sometimes used to say to me, Reg,
yes.
do you mind if I borrow one of them?
And then did he go, oh, ha, ha?
Reg, do you mind if I borrow one of your budgies? I can't quite do it. Well, I'd say, well, you are Elvis, so of course you can. And he liked the little blue and yellow ones.
He loved those. He loved those.
And then he'd take them to his dressing room.
Yes.
And I don't know what he did with them.
Well, we never saw them again.
No.
He'd come out, and there'd be no budgies. And
he'd have a performance.
He'd have a performance, and he'd start wiggling his hips. And you think, well, what's going on here? There's something going on. And the teenage girls would be screaming, and he'd be wiggling his hips, but you would never see the budgies, apart from that one occasion, I remember. You remember when he did his comeback tour in '68?
Oh, that was a very oily.
It was extremely oily. Well, I was on the tour because it was my job to oil him.
His comeback.
His comeback.
Yes.
So my job was to oil him.
Yes.
So before he'd go on stage, I'd be there and I'd get the oil can and he'd stand in front of me and he'd go, oh, and I'd go, yes, of course, no problem, because I learned to understand him after a while. Because the chap didn't say much. He largely said, ah, ha, ha. But
he was French.
Well, he was pretty much French, but you learned to understand him after a while. So
music speaks to everybody, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And on this case, meant oil me down, I'm ready for it to go. Yes. So, okay, so I'd get the oil can and I'd start oiling his back and rubbing it in. And then on this one occasion, I remember in Vegas '68, everyone was quite concerned that the hips weren't working properly.
Yes.
So there's nothing else I can do here. So luckily, we were in the big tour bus. Remember the big tour bus with the fluffy seat and the Alsatian, the dead Alsatian on the back seat?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I remember that. I killed it. But, and I said, stop here. And why are we stopping here? And I said, because it's a petrol station. And they went, it's not. It's a petrol station. It's not.
Yes.
I said, it's a petrol. It's not. They kept saying it's not a petrol station. It's not a petrol station. I said, it's a petrol station. I said, there's petrol pumps. There's people filling their cars with petrol. It's a petrol station. I said, no. It's a gas station. I thought, bloody Americans. Bloody Americans. I said, stop the bus here. Shut your face and wait a moment. And so I went out and I took him by the hand, old Elvis. I said, come on, dear. And he couldn't walk properly because the hips weren't working.
Well, yes, the pelvis.
So, the pelvis was sort of prolapsed at that point. So it was more like...
Too many burgers.
Far too many. It was more like I was dragging a sort of a jelly by the hand at this point.
Wobbly man.
A very wobbly man. Yes. Dragged him outside, got the hose pipe, said, suck this. And he went, and I said, no, not that. Don't suck, no, not that. No, suck this, suck the nozzle. Not that, the nozzle. So he got the petrol nozzle and he put it in his mouth and he going, he looked like a baby cow suckling its mother's titty, sucking the petrol down, and he's all content at this point. And so I pulled the petrol pump out of his mouth and I put it on the floor. And Elvis, calm down now, dear. You don't want anything to go wrong here. You've had far too much already. He said, the hips are working by this point. And then he slips in some of the discarded petrol and the hose went right up his arse.
Oh.
Now at this point, by pure misfortune, I decided to press the button that makes all the petrol come out. Can't remember why. And so a small amount, about 400 litres,
yes,
went up his arse.
Oops.
Anyway, so, cut a long story short, there I am in Vegas with him. He's slipping all over the place, and he reaches for his cigarette. Said, no, don't, not of that, not of that. Don't give me the cigarettes, not just yet. So, and then he went, and I said, yes, I'll get the budgie. And I went out and got the sack with the budgies in. And I put them in there, and then he just looked at me, and he put a finger to his sweaty lips, and he went, shh. Oh, hello. Don't know what's going on here, but I left him alone. 10 minutes later, he comes out and he goes on stage and he gave the performance of a lifetime.
I heard it was a blaze.
It was absolutely remarkable, but then...
He was on fire.
He was on fire. Yes. But then he took a bow and there was a noise.
Oops.
And a single yellow feather fell from the bottom of his trousers. And I thought, I know where you've stuck those budgies now. You dirty, dirty, bloody American bugger.
Dirty bugger.
Dirty sod.
I always knew he was a budgie smuggler.